The Research Project. Chapter 1. Burnt Paper and Regret. The underworld smelled like burnt paper. Not fire, not brimstone, paper. Like thousands of documents had been fed into an endless shredder and then set on fire by someone who hated bureaucracy. Gray ash drifted lazily through pale fluorescent lights overhead. Endless rows of metal filing cabinets stretched farther than the eye could see, disappearing into a foggy black horizon. Every drawer had a name. Every drawer had a life. And every life had mistakes. My brother and I stood in front of the reincarnation portals again. Again. The word felt heavy, because we both remembered. He looked exactly the same as last time. Same restless posture. Same irritated breathing. Same impatience vibrating through his body like static electricity. His hair was dark brown and messy, always falling into his amber-colored eyes. Those eyes had once been bright when we were children. Now they looked sharp, defensive, exhausted. He had always been the emotional one, quick to anger, quick to laugh, quick to panic, and quick to act without thinking. I was the opposite. My hair was darker, black, neatly combed back even here in the afterlife. My eyes were darker too, almost black under the sterile lighting. Still, observant, cold if someone looked too long. We stood in silence for a moment. Then my brother shoved me. I'm not losing again. Losing. That word told me everything. He still thought last life was a competition. Behind us, the judge of hell spun slowly in an office chair. She looked absurdly young, barely 20, long silver hair tied into a messy braid, pale skin, sharp eyes that glowed faintly violet. She was chewing on something that whimpered quietly, possibly a soul. She flipped through a glowing file. Our file. You two again, she sighed lazily. Memory retention between reincarnations was rare. Extremely rare. The fact that both of us had it meant one thing. We were part of something. An experiment. My brother didn't care. He was already moving. Just like last time. Without listening, without waiting, without thinking. He lunged forward and dove straight into the portal on the left. The actress. The judge blinked, still impulsive. The portal sealed behind him. Silence filled the massive archive hall. Then the judge looked at me. Her eyes narrowed slightly. You're different, she said. I didn't move immediately. I looked at the remaining portal, the billionaire family, the one he had chosen last. Life. The one that destroyed him. Then I looked back at the judge. I listened this time, I said calmly. She leaned forward. And what did you learn? That this was never about wealth. A slow smile spread across her face. Correct. She tapped the glowing file. This is the research project. Her voice echoed softly through the endless filing hall. We test how human psychology adapts under amplified emotional feedback. I understood immediately. Because last life had been a disaster. My brother had been reborn into the billionaire family. A household where emotions were unstable. Obsessive father, naive mother, possessive sister. Every thought he had leaked into their minds through the hidden power we were given. And because he panicked, they heard everything. Fear, disgust, anger, and unstable people respond to emotional betrayal with violence. That's why his life became hell. The judge crossed her legs. You both received 2 advantages. I stayed silent, mind-reading, and perfect physical appeal. I exhaled slowly. So that was it. Last life we never knew. My brother must have triggered the ability accidentally. And when he realized the family could hear him, he probably thought something like, "This family is insane," which they heard as truth, which they interpreted as hatred, which triggered the sister, which started the torture. The judge watched my expression carefully. Bonus ability, she continued. You can control who hears your thoughts. Targeted projection, precision communication, psychological weaponry. Everything suddenly made sense. Last love, she said softly. You used it subconsciously. With the actress. Mother. Yes. That explained why she adored me, and why I rose so easily. But I had wasted the power. This time, I would not waste anything. The judge tilted her head slightly. One more rule. I waited. Your power scales with emotional regulation. Meaning, if I panicked, I would lose control. If I stayed calm, I would become extremely precise. She leaned closer, her violet eyes gleaming. Don't become cruel. I gave a small, polite smile. Then I stepped toward the billionaire portal. If the environment requires cruelty, I said calmly, then cruelty becomes strategy. And I fell into the light. Chapter 2. The First Breath of Obsession. Birth was violent. Pressure crushed my skull as my body forced its way into existence. Sound crashed into my ears like thunder. Machines beeped. Doctors shouted. My mother screamed. Then I heard the voice that would shape my entire second life. What do you mean the umbilical cord is around his neck? My father. Even through the blur of newborn senses, his presence was overwhelming. He was tall, broad. His voice, deep and sharp like metal striking stone. If anything happens to my wife, I will shut this hospital down. Interesting. Even before I opened my eyes, I could already feel the emotional gravity around him. Love, possession, fear. Not fear for me, fear for her. My mother's thoughts drifted softly through my mind. Warm, gentle, fragile. Please be safe. Please be safe. Her mental voice trembled like glass. I opened my mind slightly. Just enough. Mom, don't cry. The room froze. Silence swallowed the chaos. My father stopped shouting mid-breath. My mother stopped screaming. Their minds reacted instantly. Did the baby? My father's heartbeat accelerated violently. I continued calmly. I'm strong. His thoughts exploded with emotion. My son is protecting us. Excellent. Now, the miracle. The cord tightened slightly around my neck. Doctors panicked. The surgeon shouted, "We may need an emergency C-section." My father roared again. But this time his anger carried fear, and fear creates deeper attachment. I reached with my tiny hands, grabbed the cord. Slowly, carefully, I twisted, loop, pull, unwrap. Mom, look, baby fixed it. The ultrasound technician gasped. The doctor nearly dropped the instrument. It's gone. The cord is free. The entire room erupted in disbelief. My father staggered backward. My mother burst into tears. He saved himself. He saved himself. The doctor wiped sweat from his forehead. Pan, this is a medical miracle. My father didn't respond immediately. He was staring at the ultrasound screen. At me. Then he said 3 words. Reward everyone here. Money would flood the hospital. But money wasn't important. What mattered was the emotional imprint. From the moment I was born, they believed I was extraordinary. And belief is the strongest form of control. Chapter 3. The Sister. I met her 3 hours after birth. She entered the hospital room slowly. 12 years old, tall for her age. Long midnight black hair flowing down her back. Pale skin almost porcelain. And eyes. Her eyes were the strangest part. Dark violet under the hospital lights. Beautiful, but slightly too intense. She stared at me for a long time. Her thoughts whispered softly. Mine. Protect. Don't let anyone take him. I tested something small. Sister smells strange. Her body froze. The nurse looked confused. My father stiffened. My mother blinked. But the sister, she smiled slowly. A strange smile. Almost delighted. I'll fix it, she whispered. The next day she changed perfume. 3 days later, she banned every servant from touching me. Installed in my nursery. My father asked why. She answered calmly. So I can watch him sleep. My father hesitated, then approved it, because he was also obsessed. Last life my brother rejected her. This time I fed the obsession carefully. Sister's hands are warm. Her eyes widened. Her breathing hitched. Hook secured. But obsession is dangerous. You must feed it, but never fully satisfy it. Otherwise it collapses, and collapse leads to violence. Chapter 4. The Golden Cage, Brother's Current Life. Across the city, in a luxury penthouse that overlooked the glittering skyline, my brother lived in a completely different world. A world made of cameras, contracts, and suffocating expectations. His name in this life was Leon Hart, and the media loved him. They called him the miracle child, the child prodigy actor, the boy with impossibly perfect features, silver gold hair that caught the light like sunlight on water, clear blue eyes that looked almost unreal, and delicate facial structure that made photographers obsessed with capturing his every expression. People described him as angelic, beautiful. But inside his own mind, he felt like livestock. His mother, Elena Hart, stood behind the cameras watching him rehearse a scene. She was breathtakingly beautiful, even in her 30s. Long, platinum blonde hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders. Her emerald eyes were sharp, calculating, always evaluating value. Elena had once been a struggling actress. Now she was one of the most famous women in the industry. And Leon was her greatest investment. Again, she said calmly. Leon froze. He had already done the scene 8 times, but he nodded anyway, because refusing would only make things worse. The director raised his hand. Action. Leon stepped forward, his small body moving with perfect stage awareness. Tears formed in his eyes, exactly on cue. His voice trembled with heartbreaking emotion. Please, don't leave me. The camera zoomed in. The director whispered in awe. God, he's good. The crew watched silently. No one noticed the quiet panic echoing in Leon's thoughts. I'm tired. Please stop. I don't want to do this anymore. Elena heard every word. Her eyes narrowed slightly, because Leon hadn't learned the most important rule yet. He still couldn't control his thoughts, and every complaint echoed inside her mind like betrayal. After the scene finished, the director clapped. Absolutely perfect. The crew applauded. Leon smiled politely, a professional smile. But inside his head, the exhaustion was overwhelming. Back in the trailer, Elena closed the door quietly. The sound clicked like a prison lock. Leon stiffened immediately. Her heels tapped slowly across the floor. She stood in front of him and crossed her arms. You don't want to do this anymore. Her voice was calm, too calm. Leon's heart dropped into his stomach. He hadn't spoken, he had only thought it. His thoughts exploded with panic. She heard it. She heard it again. Stop thinking, stop thinking. But fear made his mind louder, not quieter. Elena sighed softly. You know, she said, brushing invisible dust from her sleeve. Do you know how many mothers would kill for a child like you? He didn't answer. He couldn't. His throat felt tight. Her thoughts sharpened. Ungrateful. After everything I sacrificed, After everything I built. You will finish this film, she said coldly. And the next one. And the next one after that. She leaned down until her emerald eyes were level with his. You're my son, she whispered. That means your success is my success. Leon looked away. His beautiful blue eyes burned with quiet frustration. But he didn't argue, because arguing would only reveal more thoughts, more complaints, more mistakes. That night he lay in his enormous bed, staring at the ceiling. The penthouse was silent. Luxury surrounded him. Soft lights, expensive furniture. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. But it felt colder than any prison cell. And worst of all, he remembered everything. The billionaire mansion, the sister's eyes, the underground room, the electric shocks, the screaming. He sat up suddenly, breathing hard. His mind replayed the worst moment again, the moment when she pressed the button and whispered, "I'm fixing you." His hands trembled, because he had chosen this life. He had jumped first. He had believed wealth would mean freedom. Instead, he was trapped again, just in a different cage. Then another thought appeared, a darker one, a colder one. Where is my brother? If the reincarnation rules hadn't changed, if the judge had given both of them another chance, then his brother was alive somewhere. And if his brother had learned the truth about the powers, then this time things would be different. Leon's beautiful face hardened slowly. His eyes darkened, because one terrifying realization began forming inside his mind. What if he chose the billionaire family instead? The thought made his stomach twist, because that meant something worse than torture had happened. His brother might actually be winning. Leon clenched his fists. His thoughts turned bitter. No, he doesn't deserve that life. He doesn't deserve power, happiness. The resentment grew quietly in the darkness. And far across the city, standing in a skyscraper office, high above the streets, I suddenly felt it. My brother's hatred. A faint smile appeared on my face. Good, I whispered softly, because experiments are far more interesting when the rats start fighting back. Chapter 5. Flashback. The first torture. Brother's past life. Pain had a smell. In his first life, Leon learned that very quickly. It smelled like damp concrete, like metal heated by electricity, like the faint sickening sweetness of blood in recycled air. The room had no windows, no clocks, no sunlight, just a single white bulb hanging from the ceiling, swinging slightly every time the heavy metal door opened. Leon sat in the chair at the center of the room, strapped. His arms were bound to cold steel armrests. Thin wires curled around his wrists and ankles like snakes. He was 14 years old, and he had made the worst mistake of his life. He had thought the family was insane, because they were. His father had eyes that never blinked when angry. His mother cried constantly, but never stopped the punishments. And his sister watched everything, always watching, always listening. She didn't know about the mind-reading ability yet. So when he first realized they could hear his thoughts, he panicked. His family is crazy. That thought echoed into the room like a bomb. His father froze, his mother gasped, and his sister tilted her head slowly. Her long black hair fell across her pale face as she smiled. "You think we're crazy?" Her voice had been soft, too soft, ended. Leon immediately tried to fix it. No, I didn't mean that. But panic only made his thoughts louder. Please stop hearing me. Please stop. His father's expression darkened. His mother began crying harder, and his sister walked closer, slowly, like someone approaching a wounded animal. She touched his cheek. Her fingers were cold, but her smile was warm. "You're scared of us," she whispered. Leon shook his head desperately, but his mind betrayed him. "She's terrifying." Her smile widened. "Then we'll fix that." The first shock was small, a quick burst of electricity through the wires. His muscles locked instantly. Pain shot through his body like lightning. He screamed. The sister watched carefully, studying him, learning, adjusting the intensity. Every time his thoughts turned hostile, another shock. Every time fear appeared, another shock. Every time he thought about running away, another shock. Days passed, then weeks, and slowly his thoughts became quieter, more careful, more broken. But the sister didn't stop, because by then she wasn't punishing him anymore. She was experimenting. One day she leaned down beside him, her violet eyes glowing with fascination. "You're getting better," she said gently. Leon didn't respond. He couldn't. Because the most terrifying part wasn't the electricity. It was the realization forming slowly in his mind. My brother would have handled this better. And he hated that thought more than the pain. H1, Chapter 6, The Brother's Current Life. Leon woke up, breathing hard. The memory faded slowly, but the fear remained. P.S. H.R. The penthouse bedroom was silent. Morning sunlight poured through the massive glass windows. The city stretched endlessly below. Cars moved like tiny ants. People lived normal lives. P.S. H.R. Leon sat on the edge of the bed. His silver blonde hair fell messily across his eyes. His reflection stared back at him from the mirrored wall. P.S. H.R. Perfect. That's what everyone said. Perfect face, perfect skin, perfect smile, perfect actor. P.S. H.R. But perfection had a price. P.S. H.R. His phone buzzed. A message from his manager. Call time 6:30 a.m. Studio 3. Leon sighed. Another shoot. Another performance. Another day pretending he was happy. When he stepped outside his room, his mother was already waiting. Elena Hart stood beside the dining table with a tablet in her hands. Her makeup was flawless. Her emerald eyes were sharp, calculating. "You're late," she said. Leon checked the clock. It was 6:02. His thoughts slipped out accidentally. "It's 2 minutes." Elena's expression changed instantly. Her eyes hardened. "Excuse me?" Leon's stomach twisted. He immediately lowered his head. "Sorry." She walked closer. Her heels echoed across the marble floor. "You need to control your thoughts better," said quietly. Leon clenched his fists, because that was the problem. He couldn't. Fear made thoughts louder. Anger made them louder. Exhaustion made them loudest. And every time they leaked out, his mother heard everything. Elena sighed softly. Then her tone softened again, the way it did when cameras were present. "Eat your breakfast," she said. "You have 3 interviews today." Leon nodded silently. But inside his mind a darker thought was growing. Where is my brother? Because somewhere in the same city, another reincarnation had happened. And if his brother had learned from the past, then the balance between them had already... H1, Strong, Chapter 7, Training the Sister. Back in the Pan family mansion, I was conducting my own experiment. My sister sat across from me in the garden. She was 18 now, tall, elegant. Her midnight black hair flowed down her back like ink. Her violet eyes watched me with intense focus. P. Back P. Every servant in the mansion avoided her. Every guest feared her. Every security guard obeyed her instantly. P. Back P. Because she was dangerous, unpredictable, and completely obsessed with me. P. Back P. The trick with obsession is control. You must feed it carefully. Too little attention makes it violent. Too much attention makes it unstable. P. Back P. So I maintained balance. P. Back P. Sister, I said calmly, close your eyes. Now. P. She obeyed instantly. Hesitation. Her thoughts whispered softly. He asked me to do something. He trusts me. Good. Now the next step. Imagine someone trying to take me away. Her breathing changed immediately. Her fingers tightened around the armrest. Her thoughts darkened. Kill them. Exactly the reaction I expected. But now I needed refinement. Now imagine me telling you not to hurt them. Her eyes opened slowly. Confusion appeared on her face. But they would take you, she said quietly. Yes. Silence stretched between us. Her mind struggled with the contradiction. Then she asked something interesting. You? I smiled slightly. Yes. Her shoulders relaxed. Her thoughts softened again. Because the difference between a monster and a guardian is simply the direction of their violence. And I was teaching her exactly where to point it. Chapter 8. Enter Adrian. The first time I met Adrian Vale, he was already watching me. The boardroom was silent. Executives sat along both sides of the long glass table. Screens displayed market projections and corporate reports. Adrian stood near the window. Tall, lean, perfect posture. His hair was midnight black, combed neatly back. His dark eyes were calm, observant, calculating. But unlike the others in the room, he wasn't thinking about profit. He was thinking about me. That boy is dangerous. Interesting, most adults underestimated me. Adrian did the opposite. Our eyes met. He didn't look away. His thoughts sharpened, listening. I smiled faintly, because he was correct, and that made him the most interesting person I had met in this life. Mr. Vale, my father said, you'll be working closely with my son from now on. Adrian walked forward. His steps were quiet, controlled. He stopped in front of me, extended his hand. Adrian Vale, he said calmly. His thoughts whispered one more sentence. Let's see how dangerous you really are. I shook his hand, and replied inside his mind. Chapter 9. The Brother Learns the Truth. Leon discovered the truth by accident. It happened during a live interview. Bright lights burned into his eyes, while the host smiled with artificial enthusiasm. Tonight we're also celebrating one of the youngest corporate prodigies in the country, the host said. A large screen behind them lit up. A photograph appeared. My photograph. The audience murmured immediately. I was 17 in the image, standing beside my father at a corporate conference. Black suit, sharp posture, dark eyes calm and unreadable. The caption read, Pan Industries heir, the youngest strategic director in company history. Leon's heart stopped. For a moment he forgot the cameras, forgot the audience, forgot the carefully practiced smile. His thoughts exploded. No. That. Family. That was my life. The host kept talking. He's considered one of the most promising young strategists in modern business. Leon barely heard the rest. His chest tightened. Because he remembered everything. The mansion, the sister, the torture room, the electricity, the screaming, and the brother who had stolen that life. His thoughts spiraled. He took it. He took my place. The interviewer frowned slightly. Leon forced himself to smile again. But inside his mind, something dark had already begun growing. Not fear, not despair, something worse. Hatred. Chapter 10. The First Corporate War. By the time I turned 18, my father stopped attending most board meetings. Not because he was tired, because he trusted me. Executives. The boardroom smelled faintly of expensive wood and anxiety. 20 senior directors sat around the glass table, all older, all experienced, all deeply uncomfortable, because the person leading the meeting was a teenager. I stood at the head of the table, black suit, hands resting lightly on the table surface. Adrian stood beside the projection screen, watching, always watching. One executive finally spoke. "Mr. Pan," he said carefully, "we believe the expansion plan into Eastern markets is too aggressive." His thoughts betrayed him instantly. He's a child. I smiled politely, then projected a quiet thought directly to him. "You sold stock yesterday." His face froze. No one else reacted. Only him. Because only he heard it. I continued calmly. "Vice Chairman Zhao," I said aloud, "would you like to explain why you sold $12 million in company stock yesterday?" Silence fell over the room. His hands began shaking. "How?" He stopped himself. Adrian watched quietly. His thoughts were sharp with fascination. He didn't guess. He knew. The board members exchanged uneasy glances. Because suddenly, the situation had changed. This was no longer a young heir learning business. This was a predator testing the herd. Calmly. "Shall we vote on the expansion plan?" The vote passed unanimously. No one argued again. Chapter 11. Adrian's Realization. That night, Adrian remained in the office long after everyone left. City lights shimmered beyond the glass walls. He stood alone in the conference room, thinking. The pieces were connecting. Too many coincidences. Too much precision. Too much control. Then he remembered something. The moment our hands touched the day we met. A faint voice inside his mind. "You're about to find out." Adrian exhaled slowly. So that's how you do it. He wasn't afraid. Not even slightly. If anything, his curiosity had grown. Because Adrian Vale was not an ordinary man either. He had built his reputation by understanding people, manipulating systems, predicting behavior. But me? I broke every pattern. And that made me the most dangerous person he had ever encountered. Towards something darker. I want to see how far he'll go. Chapter 12. The Sister Notices. My sister noticed Adrian before anyone else did. She always noticed threats. We were sitting in the mansion library when she spoke. "Who is Adrian Vale?" Her voice sounded casual, but her thoughts were sharp. "Why does he stand so close to you?" I didn't look up from my book. The Strategist. She leaned forward slightly. Her long black hair slid across her shoulder. Her violet eyes studied me carefully. "You trust him." It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. I closed the book slowly. "I trust his usefulness." Her gaze darkened. Because that answer did not satisfy her. She wanted something else. Something exclusive. Something personal. Her thoughts twisted quietly. "You like that. M.P. Only I should. Dangerous. Very dangerous." I stood and walked past her. Then projected a gentle thought directly into her mind. "You're still the one I trust most." Her breath caught instantly. Her anger vanished like smoke. Balance restored. But barely. Chapter 13. The Brothers' Plan. Leon began preparing carefully. His life had become miserable. Long filming hours, constant surveillance, endless pressure from his mother. But he had one advantage. No one expected him to fight back. Not the media, not his mother, not even his brother. Late at night he sat alone in his penthouse apartment, scrolling through corporate articles, watching interviews, studying me, the calm heir, the perfect strategist, the golden child. Leon's jaw tightened. You took everything. His thoughts became colder, more focused, because suffering teaches patience, and patience creates dangerous people. He leaned back in his chair, a slow smile forming on his face. Fine, he whispered to the empty room. If you took my life, then I'll take yours. Future. Chapter 14. Adrian crosses the line. It happened late one evening. The office was empty except for us. Rain slid down the glass windows. City lights blurred in the distance. I was reviewing market data when Adrian spoke. You're not normal. I didn't look up. That's a vague statement. He walked closer. People don't react before events happen. They react after. His eyes narrowed slightly. But you always react first. I closed the laptop slowly, then looked at him. What are you implying? Adrian's thoughts burned with curiosity. Say it. Admit it. But he didn't push further. Instead, he said something unexpected. If you ever lose control, I'll still stand beside you. Interesting. That wasn't loyalty. It was fascination. And fascination can become something darker. Chapter 13. The Brothers' Plan. Leon began preparing carefully. His life had become miserable. Long filming hours, constant surveillance, endless pressure from his mother. But he had one advantage. No one expected him to fight back. Not the media, not his mother, not even his brother. Late at night he sat alone in his penthouse apartment, scrolling through corporate articles, watching interviews, studying me, the calm heir, the perfect strategist, the golden child. Leon's jaw tightened. You took everything. His thoughts became colder, more focused, because suffering teaches patience, and patience creates dangerous people. He leaned back in his chair, a slow smile forming on his face. Fine, he whispered to the empty room. If you took my life, then I'll take yours. Future. Chapter 14. Adrian crosses the line. It happened late one evening. The office was empty except for us. Rain slid down the glass windows. City lights blurred in the distance. I was reviewing market data when Adrian spoke. You're not normal. I didn't look up. That's a vague statement. He walked closer. People don't react before events happen. They react after. His eyes narrowed slightly. But you always react first. I closed the laptop slowly, then looked at him. What are you implying? Adrian's thoughts burned with curiosity. Say it. Admit it. But he didn't push further. Instead, he said something unexpected. If you ever lose control, I'll still stand beside you. Interesting. That wasn't loyalty. It was fascination. And fascination can become something darker. Chapter 15. The Research Project Watches. Far away in the Underworld archive, the Judge of Hell watched everything. Thousands of screens floated around her. Every moment, every decision, every emotional fluctuation. She leaned back in her chair, smiling. Well, she murmured, this experiment turned out far better than expected. One screen showed Leon. Another showed me. Two brothers, two paths. One built on control, one built on resentment. She tapped her glowing file. Let's see who collapses first. Chapter 16. The Trap Closes. The city glittered like a sea of stars beneath the night sky. From the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Helios Global Headquarters, the skyline stretched endlessly, towers of glass and steel glowing in quiet dominance over the world below. He stood silently, with his hands folded behind his back. His reflection stared back at him in the dark glass. Sharp eyes, midnight black hair brushed neatly back, a face calm enough to belong to a king. But behind that calm expression lived something colder. Patience. Years of patience. Behind him, the boardroom was filled with men who controlled billions of dollars. Yet none of them spoke. The silence was thick, oppressive. Everyone knew something important was about to happen. Adrian leaned lazily against the marble table, arms crossed. His silver-streaked dark hair caught the dim light as he watched the room with quiet amusement. He always looked relaxed, but everyone in the room knew Adrian was dangerous. "Shall we begin?" Adrian asked calmly. The chairman cleared his throat. "This acquisition is extremely aggressive." Another executive added nervously, "If this contract is signed, Helios Global will effectively lose its independence." Silence. Then the protagonist stepped forward. Each movement was slow and deliberate. "Helios lost its independence years ago," he said softly. His voice was quiet, but it carried absolute authority. The contract slid across the table. No one argued again, because they had all realized the truth far too late. The companies buying Helios, the banks funding the acquisition, the politicians approving the mergers, they all led back to one man. Him. The city, in a luxurious but chaotic penthouse apartment, his brother sat at the edge of a couch. Empty glasses littered the table. The actress he lived with paced angrily across the room. "You promised me that deal would happen." Her voice was sharp and irritated. "You said you still had connections." The brother rubbed his forehead. His once perfect appearance had begun to fade. His hair was messy, his eyes tired. "I'm handling it," he muttered. But even as he spoke, his phone buzzed. Another notification, another company collapsing, another partnership disappearing. Something was wrong. Something invisible was suffocating his life, but he didn't yet know why. High above the city, the trap finally snapped shut. Chapter 17. Truth Between Brothers. The charity gala glittered with elegance. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above the ballroom, casting soft golden light over hundreds of wealthy guests. Laughter, music, expensive perfume drifting through the air. The elite of the city mingled gracefully, unaware that something far more dangerous than politics was about to unfold. The protagonist entered quietly, yet the entire room seemed to shift when he arrived. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit, the sharp lines emphasizing his tall frame and calm authority. People whispered. Some admired him, others feared him, because in only a few years he had become one of the most powerful figures in the entire city, and no one fully understood how. Across the room, his brother froze. Their eyes met. For a brief moment, time stopped. The brother frowned. About this man felt disturbingly familiar, yet he couldn't explain why. The protagonist walked slowly across the room, every step measured, every movement calm. When he finally stopped in front of his brother, the noise of the gala faded into distant background sound. "Good evening," he said politely. His brother studied him. "Do I know you?" For a moment, neither spoke. Then the protagonist leaned slightly closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Do you remember the prison in the northern mountains?" The brother's heart stopped. The words struck him like lightning. A violent headache exploded behind his eyes. Snow, chains, blood on cold stone floors, screams echoing through dark hallways. His breathing became uneven. "You," he whispered. The protagonist's eyes were cold. "Yes, I remember everything." Understood. The past had returned. Chapter 18. The villain breaks. Memory returned slowly, painfully, like glass shards tearing through his mind. The brother stumbled into his apartment hours later, barely able to breathe. His hands trembled. Fragments of another life flooded his thoughts. A throne room, a prison cell, his younger brother chained to the wall, his own voice ordering the torture. Break him. He collapsed to the floor. The actress stared down at him in irritation. What is wrong with you? But he barely heard her, because for the first time in 2 lifetimes, he understood what he had done. Guilt crawled through his chest like poison. Across the city, the protagonist stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing skyline. Wind moved gently through his dark hair. Adrian stepped beside him. Well, Adrian said casually, you finally destroyed him. The protagonist remained silent. The empire he had built now controlled the city. Every piece of the revenge he had planned was complete. Yet his chest felt strangely heavy. Why don't you look satisfied? Adrian asked. The protagonist looked down at the streets far below. Because revenge had never been about power. It had been about pain. And pain never truly disappears. Chapter 19. The Choice. The final meeting happened on the rooftop of the tallest tower in the city. Night wind roared softly around them. Far below, thousands of lights glittered like stars fallen to earth. The brother stood near the edge. He looked thinner, older, as if the weight of memory had crushed him. I remember everything, he said quietly. The protagonist said nothing. For a long time, neither moved. You should kill me, the brother continued. I deserve it. His voice shook. I destroyed you. The protagonist studied him. In another life, this man had been his executioner, but also his brother. Memories of childhood flashed briefly through his mind. 2 boys laughing, running through palace halls, dreaming about ruling the world together. Those memories hurt more than the torture ever had. Spoke. No. The brother looked up in shock. You'll live, the protagonist said calmly. You'll live long enough to understand exactly what you did. Because some punishments were worse than death, and guilt lasts forever. Chapter 20. The New King. Years passed, the city changed under his rule. Crime disappeared. Corrupt politicians vanished from power. Corporations feared him. But the people admired him, because despite his ruthless methods, the city had never been safer. From the highest tower in the skyline, he watched the world he had conquered. His empire now stretched across entire industries, finance, technology, politics. Yet for the first time since his rebirth, his life had grown quieter. Adrian remained beside him, as loyal and sarcastic as ever. And the girl who had once trained beside him, the dangerous, obsessive ally who had followed him since childhood, had never left his side. Their relationship had grown slowly, not soft, not simple, but real. One evening, he stood by the window of his office while rain fell softly against the glass. Behind him, a small child slept peacefully in a nearby room. His son, a new life, untouched by revenge. Adrian entered quietly. You've built quite a kingdom. The protagonist looked out across the glowing city. In another life, everything had ended in betrayal and death. But in this life, he had become something else. Not a victim, not a monster, but a ruler born from pain. And this time, no one would ever destroy his world again.